The Occitan poet Jasmine once described Brive-la-Gaillarde as the cheerful gateway to the south of France, which is a generous description of a city that is also, and this is documented, the place of 14th century Pope remembered with enough fondness to send for a mustard maker from his homeland. We will get to the mustard, but today we are starting with something else because Brive-la-Gaillarde has been making liqueurs since 1839, and the story of how a city in the Corrèze became one of the great centres of artisan liqueur making in France is one that I've been looking forward to telling for a long time. This is Fabulously Delicious, the French food podcast, and welcome back to the Food Tour de France. I'm your host, Andrew Pryor, and today the tour starts in Malemort, right next door to Brive-la-Gaillarde, the largest city in the Corrèze, sitting at the point where the Massif Central meets the Dordogne Valley and the southwest of France begins. And today we're talking about the liqueurs of Brive. To understand why Brive became a liqueur-making city, you need to understand where it sits. The Occitan poet was right. It really is a gateway, north of the Charente and the Gers, in reach of Cognac, Armagnac country, close to the vineyards of Bergerac, Cahors and Bordeaux, and surrounded by walnut orchards. The Corrèze and the Dordogne produce some of the finest walnuts in France, rich in aromatic plants from the edge of the Massif Central, and sitting on trade routes that brought together the eau de vie of the southwest with the botanicals of the central highlands. It is, in other words, a perfect place for someone who wants to make liqueurs. All the ingredients are either grown locally or they're passing through. The liqueur makers of Brive understood that early and built an industry on it. The oldest and most celebrated of those liqueur makers is the Maison Denoix. The distillery was founded in 1839 by a man called Pierre Lacoste, who established it in the centre of Brive and promptly perfected his triple sec Cognac, the orange liqueur that was already building a following among those of the southwest. Then came the creation that would define the house, the Suprême Denoix, a walnut liqueur built from green walnuts harvested around the city, macerated and distilled into something deeply aromatic, nutty, slightly bitter, and entirely distinctive of the area. At the time of this creation, it was marketed with remarkable confidence. The Suprême Denoix was claimed to have cholera-fighting properties and deworming properties. Whether or not those claims were entirely accurate, well, the liqueur was good enough to survive the medical marketing era and still be made today from the same ancestral recipe in the same building by a fifth generation of the family. The name Denoix, which means of the walnut in French, turned out to be either extremely fortunate or prophetically chosen because the walnut became the signature ingredient of the house. Every mid-July, around the time of St. John's Day, the distillery processes around 10 tons of green walnuts, crushed, pressed, macerated, to begin the production of the walnut wine. The juice from those walnuts is combined with red wine, sugar and spices, aged for 5 years in oak barrels, and then it's bottled as one of the most distinctive aperitifs in the southwest. Process at Denoix has barely changed since the 19th century. The large brick vats, the bain-marie still with its long swan neck, the sugar syrup cooked over a wood fire, the charcoal hearth under the copper cauldrons, bottles drawn, corks and labelled by hand. The cellar where the eau de vie aged, it is designated a living heritage company, Enterprise de Patrimoine Vivant, which is France's formal recognition that what is happening inside this building is worth preserving. The family history of Denoix is 5 generations long and has not always followed a straight line. Pierre Lacoste founded it. His successors developed it. Elie Denoix, whose name is written into the company's story most deeply, was responsible for a range of new creations and, crucially, for the rediscovery of something almost lost, the moutarde violette de Brive, the violet mustard, made from great must and fine mustard seeds. The must giving its extraordinary purple-violet cover and the sweetness that balances the heat of the mustard in the way that's, well, unexpected. Ellie's son, Bernard, relaunched its commercial production in 1986, and it's now exported internationally. The connection to the Pope is real. In the 14th century, Pope Clement VI, who was born in the area, remembered the violet mustard of his homeland and summoned a mustard maker to come to Avignon. Messie Ghiberti was appointed master mustard maker of the Pope. Since 1991, the distillery has been run by Sylvie Denoix and her husband, Laurent. In 2019, the year of the 180th anniversary, their daughter Marie and her husband Paul joined the business, becoming the 5th generation to carry the Denois tradition forward. The range today includes the original Suprême Denoix walnut liqueur, a walnut wine, fruit liqueurs, plant liqueurs, and the violet mustard. Everything made without added colourings or artificial flavourings. Everything made in the same building in the centre of Brive. From the same recipes drawn from what the distillery describes simply as an old grimoire, an old book of recipes. Oh, I'd love to see that. Denoix is not the only liqueur maker in Brive. The distillery Bellet, founded in 1922 by Henry Bellet and now in its 4th generation, works in a different register, specialising in mountain plants and southwest fruits, making a chestnut liqueur that has developed a devoted following. A range of pastis in multiple colours and botanics, and an absinthe. These liqueurs connect directly to the food culture we have been covering across the Dordogne. And today, as the tour starts in Malemort and heads out through the Corrèze and in the centre of Brive-la-Gaillarde, in the distillery of the Boulevard that has been there since 1839, someone is probably crushing green walnuts, stirring sugar syrup over a wood fire, or bottling Suprême Denoix by hand, exactly as it has been done for nearly 2 centuries. The cheerful gateway to the south of France, and one of the great unsung liqueur-making cities in France. That's the liqueurs of Brive-la-Gaillarde. Tomorrow on the Food Tour de France, another stage, another story. So bon appétit et à très bientôt.